What if I told you that the simple morning routine you've followed for decades is slowly killing your heart? Right now, as you watch this video, millions of people over 60 are unknowingly performing daily rituals that are setting them up for a catastrophic heart attack or stroke. My name is Dr. Martinez, and as a cardiologist with over 25 years of experience, I've seen too many patients wheeled into my emergency room because they ignored the warning signs hiding in there. Everyday habits. Just last week, I lost a patient. Margaret was 72, a grandmother of 6 who seemed perfectly healthy. She walked her dog every morning, ate what she thought was a heart-healthy breakfast, and took her medications religiously. But Margaret had been making 10 critical mistakes every single day. Mistakes that 95% of seniors make without realizing they're essentially playing Russian roulette with their cardiovascular system. When Margaret collapsed in her kitchen last Tuesday morning, it wasn't sudden at all. Her heart had been crying out for help for years, but she couldn't hear it over the noise of misinformation and dangerous habits that society has taught us to accept as normal. Today, I'm going to reveal the 10 most deadly daily habits that are silently destroying the hearts of millions of seniors across America. These aren't the obvious ones like smoking a pack a day or eating nothing but fast food. These are the subtle, seemingly innocent routines that your doctor might not even think to warn you about. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which habits are putting you at risk, and more importantly, you'll have the tools to reverse the damage starting today. Before we dive into this life-saving countdown, I need you to do something for me. If this information could save your life or the life of someone you love, please hit that like button right now. It helps me reach more people who desperately need to hear this message. And if you're serious about protecting your heart health, subscribe and ring that notification bell because I'll be sharing more critical health information that could literally add years to your life. Let me start with a question that might shock you. How many steps did you take yesterday? If you're like most seniors, the answer is probably fewer than 3,000. That brings us to deadly habit number 10, and it's one that's so normalized in our society that we don't even recognize it as dangerous anymore. Deadly habit number 10 is living a sedentary lifestyle and skipping your daily walks. I know what you're thinking. You might say you're too old, too tired, or that your joints hurt too much. But here's what I see in my cardiology practice every single day. Patients who sit for more than 8 hours daily have a 64% higher risk of cardiovascular disease. When you remain sedentary, your blood begins to move sluggishly through your veins. Your heart muscle weakens because it's not being challenged. Your circulation becomes poor, and dangerous blood clots can form in your legs that could travel directly to your heart or brain. Sarah was one of my patients who learned this lesson almost too late. At 78, she spent most of her day watching television or reading in her favorite chair. She told me she was too old to exercise, and that walking was pointless at her age. 3 months later, Sarah had a massive heart attack that could have been prevented. The simple act of walking just 30 minutes a day can reduce your heart attack risk by 35%. Your heart is a muscle, and like any muscle, it needs to be exercised to stay strong. The solution is surprisingly simple. Start with just 10 minutes of walking after each meal. This doesn't have to be power walking or jogging. A gentle stroll around your neighborhood or even walking in place while watching your favorite show can make a tremendous difference. Your heart will thank you, your circulation will improve, and you'll likely find that you have more energy throughout the day. But walking alone isn't enough if you're making deadly habit number 9 every single time you sit down to eat. Deadly habit number 9 is consuming excessive amounts of hidden sodium. And this one is particularly dangerous because most seniors have no idea how much salt they're actually eating. The American Heart Association recommends no more than 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day, but the average senior consumes over 3,400 milligrams daily. That extra sodium is like forcing your heart to work overtime every single day. When you consume too much salt, your body retains extra water to dilute that sodium. This increases your blood volume, which means your heart has to pump harder to move that extra fluid through your system. Over time, this increased workload causes your blood pressure to rise, your artery walls to thicken, and your risk of heart attack and stroke to skyrocket. The most dangerous part about this habit is that the majority of your sodium intake isn't coming from the salt shaker on your table. It's hiding in processed foods, canned soups, frozen dinners, bread, and even seemingly healthy foods like cottage cheese and breakfast cereals. That innocent-looking bowl of canned soup contains nearly half of your entire daily sodium allowance. Those crackers you enjoy with your afternoon tea, they're loaded with hidden salt that's slowly damaging your cardiovascular system. James, a 67-year-old retired teacher, came to me with dangerously high blood pressure. He insisted he never added salt to his food and couldn't understand why his numbers were so high. When we examined his diet, we discovered he was eating over 4,000 milligrams of sodium daily just from processed and packaged foods. Within 3 months of switching to fresh, whole foods and using herbs and spices for flavor instead of salt, James's blood pressure dropped by 30 points, and he was able to reduce his medication. Start reading every food label and choose fresh foods whenever possible. Use garlic, herbs, lemon, and other natural flavor enhancers instead of reaching for the salt. Your taste buds will adjust within a few weeks, and your heart will immediately begin to benefit from the reduced workload. This brings us to deadly habit number 8, and this one happens every single morning in kitchens across America. Deadly habit number 8 is starting your day with a heart attack on a plate, and most people call it breakfast. The traditional American breakfast of bacon, sausage, eggs, fried in butter, hash browns, and white toast isn't just unhealthy. It's a direct assault on your cardiovascular system that sets the tone for how your heart will struggle throughout the entire day. These foods are loaded with saturated fats, cholesterol, and processed chemicals that immediately begin clogging your arteries and forcing your heart to work harder than it should. When you eat a high-fat, high-cholesterol breakfast, your blood becomes thick and sluggish. Your arteries constrict to try to manage the increased workload, and your blood pressure spikes. This morning surge in blood pressure and arterial stress is when most heart attacks occur. It's not a coincidence that the majority of cardiac events happen between 6 and 10 in the morning, right after people have consumed their daily dose of arterial poison. Linda, a 71-year-old grandmother, came to me after experiencing chest pains every morning. She couldn't understand why she felt fine in the evenings but struggled with discomfort and fatigue each morning. When we tracked her symptoms, we discovered they consistently appeared within 2 hours of her breakfast routine of scrambled eggs, bacon, and buttered toast. Her body was literally reacting to the inflammatory assault she was giving it every morning. The solution is to choose foods that support your heart instead of attacking it. Oatmeal with fresh berries and a small amount of nuts provides fiber. That helps remove cholesterol from your system. Greek yogurt with fruit gives you protein without the dangerous saturated fats. Whole grain toast with avocado provides healthy fats that actually improve your cardiovascular function. But even if you perfect your morning routine, you could still be making deadly habit number 7 every evening. And this one might surprise you because many people consider it a reward for a hard day. Deadly habit number 7 is that nightly glass of wine or beer that you've convinced yourself is good for your heart. I've heard this excuse countless times in my practice. Patients tell me they read somewhere that red wine has antioxidants, or that a beer helps them relax after a stressful day. But here's the truth that the alcohol industry doesn't want you to know. Any potential benefits from moderate alcohol consumption are completely overshadowed by the cardiovascular damage it causes, especially in people over 60. As we age, our bodies process alcohol differently. Your liver becomes less efficient at breaking down alcohol, which means it stays in your system longer, causing more damage. Alcohol raises your blood pressure, increases your heart rate, and can trigger dangerous irregular heartbeats called arrhythmias. Even 1 drink per day can increase your risk of atrial fibrillation by 16%. Atrial fibrillation dramatically increases your stroke risk and can lead to sudden cardiac death. Robert, a 64-year-old retiree, insisted that his 2 beers every evening were helping him relax and weren't causing any problems. He came to me after experiencing episodes of rapid heartbeat and dizziness. When we monitored his heart rhythm, we discovered he was having dangerous arrhythmias. That corresponded directly with his evening drinking routine. Within 6 weeks of eliminating alcohol completely, Robert's heart rhythm stabilized, and his blood pressure dropped significantly. If you need help relaxing in the evening, try herbal tea, meditation, or gentle stretching instead. Your heart needs rest and recovery time, not the additional stress that alcohol places on your cardiovascular system. But relaxation becomes impossible when you're dealing with deadly habit number 6. And this one is literally eating you alive from the inside. Deadly habit number 6 is holding in your stress and anger instead of dealing with it properly. I've seen too many patients who pride themselves on being stoic and never showing their emotions, not realizing that suppressed stress is one of the most dangerous things you can do to your heart. When you hold in anger, frustration, or chronic stress, your body remains in a constant state of fight or flight response. This chronic stress response floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline, hormones that cause your blood pressure to stay elevated, your arteries to inflame, and your heart to work overtime 24 hours a day. Chronic stress, literally, ages your cardiovascular system at an accelerated rate. People who suppress their emotions have a 200% higher risk of heart disease compared to those who express their feelings in healthy ways. Martha was a perfect example of this deadly habit. At 75, she had been the family caretaker for decades, always putting everyone else's needs before her own and never complaining about the enormous stress she carried. She came to me with chest pains that doctors couldn't explain through traditional testing. When we discussed her emotional health, Martha broke down and admitted she had been carrying decades of unexpressed frustration and worry. Her body was literally breaking down under the weight of suppressed stress. Learning to express your emotions in healthy ways isn't selfish. It's essential for your survival. Talk to trusted friends, join a support group, consider counseling, or simply start journaling about your feelings. Your heart needs emotional release just as much as it needs physical exercise. This emotional tension becomes even more dangerous when combined with deadly habit number 5. And this one happens while you sleep. Deadly habit number 5 is ignoring your snoring and refusing to address sleep apnea. And this silent killer is destroying hearts while people sleep. If your partner tells you that you snore loudly, stop breathing during sleep, or gasp for air during the night, you're not just annoying them, you're slowly suffocating your heart. Sleep apnea causes you to stop breathing repeatedly throughout the night, sometimes hundreds of times. Each time you stop breathing, your oxygen levels drop dramatically, and your heart goes into panic mode trying to keep you alive. This constant cycle of oxygen deprivation and recovery puts enormous stress on your cardiovascular system. People with untreated sleep apnea have a 30% higher risk of heart attack and a 50% higher risk of stroke. The repeated drops in oxygen cause your blood pressure to spike repeatedly throughout the night, and over time, this leads to permanent cardiovascular damage. Frank, a 70-year-old retired contractor, came to me with unexplained fatigue and high blood pressure that wouldn't respond to medication. His wife mentioned that his snoring had become so loud it kept her awake in another room. A sleep study revealed that Frank was stopping breathing over 40 times per hour throughout the night. His heart was essentially running a marathon every single night just to keep him alive. Once we treated his sleep apnea with a CPAP machine, Frank's blood pressure normalized, his energy returned, and his heart could finally rest during sleep. If you snore loudly or feel tired despite getting 8 hours of sleep, talk to your doctor about a sleep study. Treating sleep apnea isn't just about getting better rest. It's about giving your heart the break it desperately needs to repair and recover. But your heart can't recover when you're still engaging in deadly habit number 4. Even if you're not the one doing it directly. Deadly habit number 4 is exposing yourself to cigarette smoke. Whether you're smoking or just breathing secondhand, smoke regularly. Even if you quit smoking decades ago, continuing to expose yourself to smoke from others is still damaging your heart. Secondhand smoke contains over 7,000 chemicals, hundreds of which are toxic, and at least 70 that cause cancer. When you breathe cigarette smoke, those chemicals immediately enter your bloodstream and begin attacking your cardiovascular system. The smoke makes your blood more likely to clot, reduces the oxygen carrying capacity of your blood, and causes immediate inflammation in your arteries. Even brief exposure to secondhand smoke can trigger a heart attack in someone with existing heart disease. Eleanor, a 73-year-old non-smoker, came to me with recurring chest pains that seemed to happen randomly. Through careful questioning, we discovered that her chest pains consistently occurred after visiting her daughter, who was a heavy smoker. Even though Eleanor only spent a few hours per week in that smoke-filled environment, it was enough to trigger dangerous cardiovascular reactions. Once Eleanor started meeting her daughter outside of the smoking environment, her chest pains disappeared completely. If you live with someone who smokes, encourage them to quit and insist they smoke outside, away from you. If you're still smoking, please understand that every cigarette is like putting a loaded gun to your heart and pulling the trigger. It's never too late to quit, and your heart will begin healing within hours of your last cigarette. This brings us to deadly habit number 3. And this one is stealing your sleep and aging your heart faster than almost anything else. Deadly habit number 3 is exposing yourself to blue light from screens late at night, disrupting your natural sleep cycle and forcing your heart to work overtime when it should be resting. When you watch television, use your tablet, or check your phone in the hours before bedtime, the blue light tricks your brain into thinking it's still daytime. This suppresses your natural melatonin production and keeps your nervous system in an alert, stressed state when it should be preparing for rest and recovery. Poor sleep quality doesn't just make you tired the next day. It directly damages your cardiovascular system. When you don't get deep, restorative sleep, your blood pressure remains elevated throughout the night. Your stress hormones stay high, and your heart never gets the chance to slow down and recover from the day's demands. People who get less than 6 hours of quality sleep per night have a 48% higher risk of heart disease. David, a 60-year-old retiree, complained of feeling exhausted despite spending 9 hours in bed each night. He couldn't understand why his blood pressure was climbing, despite taking medication. When we examined his bedtime routine, we discovered David was spending 2 to 3 hours each evening scrolling through news, websites, and social media on his tablet while lying in bed. The blue light exposure was preventing him from entering deep sleep stages, and his heart was essentially working overtime all night long. Create a digital sunset in your home. Turn off all screens at least 2 hours before bedtime. Use dim, warm lighting in the evening, and keep your bedroom completely dark and cool. Your heart needs those deep sleep cycles to repair and regenerate, and you can't get them with artificial light, disrupting your natural rhythms. But even perfect sleep won't protect you if you're making deadly habit number 2, and this one is probably sitting in your kitchen right now. Deadly habit number 2 is regularly consuming fast food, fried snacks, and processed convenience foods that are specifically engineered to be addictive while destroying your cardiovascular system. These foods contain trans fats, excessive sodium, artificial preservatives, and inflammatory compounds that cause immediate damage to your arteries. The combination of high sodium, unhealthy fats, and chemical additives creates a perfect storm of cardiovascular destruction. Just one fast food meal can cause your arteries to constrict for up to 4 hours afterward and can trigger dangerous spikes in blood pressure and inflammation. But the most dangerous aspect of these foods isn't just their immediate effects, they're literally addictive. Food scientists have specifically designed these products to trigger pleasure centers in your brain, making you crave more while simultaneously damaging your heart with every bite. The more you eat them, the more you want them, creating a cycle that's incredibly difficult to break. Patricia, a 76-year-old widow, found herself relying more and more on frozen dinners and fast food after her husband passed away. She told me cooking for one person seemed pointless, and these convenient options were easier. Within 6 months, Patricia's cholesterol had skyrocketed, her blood pressure was dangerously high, and she was experiencing chest pains. When we worked together to replace just half of her processed food intake with simple, whole foods, her numbers improved dramatically within 8 weeks. Start small by replacing one processed meal per day with something fresh and simple. A piece of grilled fish with steamed vegetables requires minimal preparation but provides enormous cardiovascular benefits compared to a frozen dinner loaded with sodium and preservatives. This brings us to the #1 most deadly habit, and this one is so common and so dangerous that it's responsible for more preventable heart attacks and strokes than any other single factor. Deadly habit #1 is ignoring your blood pressure and skipping or inconsistently taking your prescribed heart medications. High blood pressure is called the silent killer because it causes no symptoms while it slowly destroys your cardiovascular system. Every day that your blood pressure remains elevated above 140/90, it's like putting your arteries in a pressure cooker. The constant high pressure causes tiny tears in your artery walls, which your body tries to repair with cholesterol patches. Over time, these patches build up into dangerous plaques that can rupture and cause heart attacks or strokes. Yet I see patients every day who skip their blood pressure medications because they feel fine, or who take them inconsistently because they forget or because they don't want to deal with side effects. This is literally gambling with your life. Uncontrolled high blood pressure increases your heart attack risk by 300% and your stroke risk by 700%. The truth is that your heart is not invincible, and after age 60, it needs your active support to keep you alive and healthy. Every single habit I've shared with you today is completely within your control. You have the power to choose life habits over life-threatening ones. Change doesn't have to be overwhelming. Start with just one habit. Choose the one that resonated most strongly with you today and commit to changing it for the next 30 days. Your heart will begin healing immediately, and you'll likely find that other positive changes become easier as you gain momentum. This information has opened your eyes to dangers you didn't know existed. Please consider leaving a super thanks to support this channel. Your financial help allows me to continue bringing you life-saving health information and helps this channel reach more people who desperately need to hear these messages. Every super thanks helps us save more lives by spreading critical health awareness to those who need it most. But is this all there is to protecting your heart? What other hidden dangers might be lurking in your daily routine that could be putting your life at risk? The secrets I'll reveal in upcoming videos